Victor may wish to unmute and speak. Victor, are you there? Hello, Victor, are you there?
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening, class. My network is fluctuating. I heard my name.
Okay, can you please unmute and speak and tell us your name, your background, and why you registered for this program?
Okay, so once again, good evening, sir. Good evening, class. My name is Victor Dafe. I'm a public health specialist. I chose this course because it's in line with my area of specialization. I work as a senior program officer with John Snow Incorporated, and most of what I do involves program implementation and design. So that's more reason why I have interest in
Hearing him.
program implementation. Hello, sir. Am I heard?
Yes, I think I heard a good
Hello?
part of it. The program officer, John Snow, a public health specialist. I think that is fine for me. Can we take Felicia?
Okay, sir.
Good evening, Prof.
Good evening, please speak on.
I think my network is terrible. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
sir.
we can still hear you.
Okay, my name is Ebe Felicia. I'm a professional accountant. I work with Federal University of Allied Health Sciences, Enugu. I am a student of the school, the postgraduate diploma students. Thank you, sir.
Great, thank you, all, both of you. I need to just take off by way of introduction. The course title is Social Welfare Program Design and Implementation, to the best of my knowledge. And I think basically what this course entails is to enable us to have an idea part of it is about how to implement the programs. There are two tails. The first one is designing the program, while the second one is about how to implement the programs. In the social welfare field, in a broader perspective, in social work, the idea of intervention has to do first by designing the programs for intervention. Intervention has to do with taking the challenges headlong to resolve and to get a solution at the end of the day. So I will just simply follow an outline I've made here, which has to do with taking you through the process. This aspect of the program design is really not in-depth. It's an introductory part of it. So we need to know very well that when there's a social welfare challenge, like we are actually specializing in advocacy and campaign, you really can't just campaign without a design. Campaign is a project. Advocacy is also a project. So we need to take a look first and foremost as what we can call the logic framework of campaigning, logic framework of designing. Initially, when this course is supposed to lead us into a practical settings, but I'm not really sure the availability, the mode at which we are also operating will take us truly into the basics of the practicals. in terms of having hands on deck, but we do our best designs and implementation. We also take a look of overview of designing. Then we also talk about conceptualizing change program. We will talk about steps to developing programs. And then we talk about developing of programs itself. And we conclude at that level. So I will move first to the introduction. Let me say that social welfare program design includes planning for activities. What I mean here is that social welfare program design is simply the process of planning for activities that will bring about intervention. There is really no need to go into any social work intervention if there's no positive result is expected from those activities. Intervention that gears towards creating a reversal in the sense that it can change the status quo of situation. It can also change the line of thinking. It can also reverse actions, and at the same time can also eliminate certain issues that has come up as a matter of serious concern. So like I rightly said, every social welfare programs will have to start from designing the interventions. So in designing intervention, there has to be a planning process. Of course, we are familiar with what the planning process are, the processes in planning. We understand the component of planning as well from various other programs we have learned. So in this circumstance, it's still the same thing we are looking at here. The planning process has not changed. So I will also say that we are going to use specific environments and experiences to inform our plan, our designs. So when social welfare programs will be designed to include planning for activities and as well make use of specific environment and experience to target our results. Why are we talking about specific environment and experience here? Of course, in social welfare programs, the environment of implementation matters a lot. So when we are designing or conceptualizing a design of a program for a different or various environments, it is very key that we take into consideration the specific nature of each of this environment, because the challenges of each environment could be different from one, could differ from one to another, even when what we're experiencing happen to be same. Take for instance, outbreak of cholera, take for instance, outbreak of any other similar stress like that. You'll find out that approach to it might not be uniformed, approach to it might not be stereotyped. There could be certain circumstances that will bring about slight differences at the level of implementing to reverse the status quo of the situation. So specific environment is important, and experiences of the people concerned and the experience of those implementing are also important in making a design useful. We also talk about at the level of introduction here, we mentioned logically conceptualizing change and selecting programs activities to bring about desired results. So I will start from the first point to read or put it across in a logical chain to produce what we are looking at by saying that social welfare programs design includes planning of activities, using specific environment and experience, logical conceptualizing change, and selecting program activities to bring about desired results. Invariably, this is what we can call program design. When we plan for activities to address a particular situation or situations, when we use specific environment and experience in doing the planning, when we also logically conceptualize what change we desire in the sense of what we expect to have, and then we select the program activities that could be implemented to bring about this desired result, we can simply say that we have designed a program and we have implemented for results. Any question at this point of introduction? Hello? Do we have any question here? Is there something we need to either add to this or bring to our knowledge? Can I move on? Okay, please go ahead. Victor? Victor, can you speak? Oh, lost Victor, lost Felicia, have only Vivian. In that context, let me move on. So I did mention here during my discussion on the introduction that we need to logically conceptualize the changes we need. Because when we conceptualize the changes and put that down in a design, and they are not logically conceptualized, we can implement the program and it will not provide the result. It will not intervene, which simply means that the program design must, or conceptualize, must have the ability to react to the change we need. And by reacting first and foremost with the current situation on ground. Because getting a change is like a reversal or bringing in something very new. And obviously, when we are reversing a situation, something has to give way to something. So if that thing is not what we want to do at the current, it's not logically related to what has been on ground, the desired change would not take place. In that case, it becomes pertinent that we take into consideration logic. So if there's no logical relationship, we really will not get any result. So this leads us to what we can say, that all of us on this program, at this program level, should be able to understand logic model, should look out for logic model. Logic model is a large model that you need to read and understand. Then you see how you can apply that when you are designing the program. Because when activities are not logically related, it's like they can act on their own isolatively, and then they will still leave the situation unattended to. So a little bit on the logic model, I want to say that logic models are a popular tool for linking programs activities to outcomes. Logic models are strongest when they can ground programs' theory of change in other related scholarship or past evidence. I'm saying that logic models are strongest when they have the ability to link the programs or link the activities of the programs together to achieve the result. And of course, they make much sense to us when they are being selected based on past evidence. If there's no related evidence, it might not be very fantastic or very reasonable to apply a particular logic model. So we check out for past activities, past experiences, past results to draw what has worked and to improve on it. And this is the best positions where logic model are employed. So why are we talking about logic model here? What is the rationale for this? We want to say that logic model is often called an evaluation framework. At every stage of the design, there is an evaluation that is needed. When you are designing a program, there are 3 levels of evaluation that has to be taken into consideration. You have the pre-design evaluation. You have this mid-design evaluation. Then you now have final design evaluation. At the pre-design evaluation, it is at the level where we are conceptualizing what design we put in place. For instance, we want to come out on a campaign. We want to do an advocacy on a particular outbreak. Take, for instance, cholera. And of course, the first thing we need to do is to first understand the content of cholera. What is cholera? What is the causes of cholera? What is the mode of transmission of cholera? How does cholera affect people? What is the economic effect of cholera? And so on and so on and so on. Then the best business here is first and foremost, cholera is addressed by immediate advocacy, immediate campaign. We talk about it. We try to sensitize people on do's and don'ts, try to tell people on what to do to control. We talk to also let people know what to do about those who are immediately affected or infected and what is expected to be done to be sure it doesn't spread and so on and so on. At the point where all these are within our mind, that is a conception level. We are thinking of what to do. We need to move maybe with experts in the medical or health, experts in this area, and combine a team that will move to where they have to go and meet with some people, either in the market or meet at school or meet where people are gathered, and then begin to talk about these issues to enlighten people on what to do. When we are conceiving, that is conception. When we are that this will be done. From there, we do this and do that and do that. When we are done halfway, arranging, when we have actually put down the activities in the scattered form, and we now begin to arrange the activities. We've arranged 50% to 70%. We need to pause and take a look by going to the first part of it again to begin to take a look at them and then begin to also think of the logical relationship between these activities, because activity 1 must lead to activity 2. Activity 2 must lead to activity 3. Activity 3 must lead to activity 4. In that sequence, we get it right. In certain circumstances of campaign, advocacy, or intervention, when activities are placed at the wrong level of occurrence, it sometimes impedes the success or even water down the success, or also bring down the level of success to maybe 50% or a percentage that will not be very active. So this is what I mean by this 3 levels of design evaluation. First, we are thinking of what to do. We are writing them down in a jotter. We are a kind of having a bank of activity. We are going to assemble a group. The group will consist of one health educator, one medical doctor will be in a team, a nurse will be in the team will require a teacher, the team will require this, we put them down. After this, we will need 3 vehicles, we need 2 vehicles, we need public address system, we will need this, we will need that, we will need that, we will need that. When all these issues are being put on ground, that is the first part of it. We seek to evaluate what have we not mentioned here. What do we need to actually mention in this circumstance? We're still doing the first, what we can call pre-design evaluation. Then we now begin to arrange them in a logical sequence. Like we talk about, that logical frame must be employed of occurrence. This lead to this lead to that, this lead to that, without concluding the arrangement. We are now doing a mid-design evaluation. When we are completely done with everything we have done, from the first level of activity to the last level of activity, and we review again, that should be the final design evaluation. Trying to now look at it with the practical eye to even try to gauge if after implementing this chain of activities, the objective will be realized. When at every point in time, of course, even at the level of pre, the level of mid, and the level of the final design evaluation, at a point where we realize that there's a missing link to the activities or actions, we adjust. Of course, we know very well that the purpose of this evaluation is to strengthen. The purpose of this evaluation is to really be sure that the result or desired result comes to table. So that is what I mean by saying that the evaluation of design comes in threefold. And I think I've been able to explain the threefold at which the evaluation of the design is done. So I take a little bit back to the rationale for logic model. Sounds more of academic, but of course, in the practical term, if you listen properly, you'll be able to get it right. It's a logic model is often called evaluation framework. And I've explained in practical terms how this evaluation is done as far as design is concerned. So logic framework has a history. Its origin goes back to Schumann, 1967, and Weiss of 1972. Then other early influences were that of Bennett in 1976, hierarchy of evidence, developed to evaluate the effectiveness of extension programs. During the evaluation of extension program, Bennett, 1976, developed a logical model and then bring into prominence the use of logic model for program design and implementation. Then Wallis in 1979 also add strength to the use of a logic model in program design and evaluation when he said and also opined that evaluability techniques judging the effectiveness of program and the effectiveness of it. And of course, we all know that designing a program and implementing the program are two different things. Then getting the results of the desired expectation of the why the program was designed and implemented is some other thing. But in getting it right, or to make better use of time, better use of resources, better use of material, design, implementation, and result must all key. It must stand on the same line. Anything outside that, it becomes a complete waste of time by going into any part of it. So this work was a result of evaluation, being asked to evaluate impact. That work of Woolley, I'm trying to still take forward, was a result of evaluation, was a result of evaluators put together to ask to evaluate impact and finding that goals and objectives are vague. Findings that programs didn't exist or weren't being implemented in a way that will achieve the expected result, and seeking new approaches for measuring casualties. I need to let you know that most development programs that are interventive in nature, which almost all are interventive in nature, are paid for by any means whatsoever, either by sponsors or interested parties. But however, somebody needs to pay for it because interventions cannot happen without some funds being committed to it. Then the funders expect that after the implementation, results should be out. Oftentimes, the implementers of these programs may program has been designed from somewhere, and we are also asked to come on board and then take part in the implementation. But many times as well, at the level where some of us are employed, we are asked to follow the frame that have been designed and get the results. But also, oftentimes again, when the results are not on the same line with the activities as expected, it is often also believed that those implementing did not implement well. Evaluators of this at this level usually evaluate implementation. They often do not evaluate the design because design has been done and evaluated to be able to produce the results effectively before those to implement are engaged. But sometimes design can also have an issue from what I said from our first intro by talking about the environment and specificity. Therefore, experience comes to play. It becomes pertinent that social workers at this level trained to have little understanding of evaluating the program they also are engaged to implement. Implementing and design can sometimes be different. The component arrangement, the logical placement of activity Do we have any question or do we understand what I've been talking about? Hello? Hello?
Prof, we are getting you.
Okay, let me be sure I'm not talking to myself.
Yes, sir, we are getting you.
Okay. Okay, let's briefly take a look at overview of designing. I did mention in a layman term, like that designing is conceptualizing activities that need to be done to get a program. To arrive at a program. And program is actually on its own a project geared towards getting a particular result. For the social work, it has to be interventive. It is actually not designed for purpose of funfair. Even if it's about beating of drum and singing, it is particularly designed to solve a problem. There is a challenge that the beating of drum and singing will resolve before social workers engage in it. So even if they are blowing whistle on the street and going around with whistle just blowing, there must have been a purpose to be achieved. So this program design in this case is about conceptualizing activities. Various activities must come together to form a project. So when you conceptualize the activities, you arrange the activities in a logical sequence of occurrence that will make it be geared, will solidify it to produce the result when they are also properly implemented. So having understood this, we need to take a look at overview of design. In overview of the design, I have 5 basic sub-heading here. This first one is called understand the context for programming. Understand the context for programming. How do you understand the context for programming? Can somebody say something? I'm sure we have heard the word programming before. Understand the context. Sorry? So what are we programming for? That's what I'm trying to say here. What is the reason for this program we're talking about? You want to embark on advocacy. What is the reason for that particular advocacy? So you need to understand the context. You need to understand what it is meant for. You need to understand in and out of it. What are we looking at? What is the cost of it? What is the benefit of it? Who are the beneficiaries? Who are the key players? Who are the actors required? The actors that are two sides, the implementing actors, and the other side of the actors. So who are involved? So here I'm made to understand, and I've also understood that it has been very key that we should understand the context for that programming. And again, do not forget that each program has to be taken separately, and the approach for it might not be confused with the last one we did, because the context can have slight dissimilarities. The next stage is conceptualize the change. Conceptualize the change. What do we mean by conceptualizing the change? And what change are we talking about here? Can somebody say something?
May I talk, sir?
Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. To conceptualize the change is to try to visualize the results that will be achieved through the intervention.
Very excellent. How many type of result can you get at the end of your program?
Positive or negative?
Thank you. That is one. Second one.
No idea, sir.
Positive and negative together.
Yes. Positive, the first one. Negative, the second.
No. The first one is positive or negative. The second one is both positive and negative.
Okay, positive or negative.
I'm sure there are 2 different items.
Yes, sir.
Did we understand this? Did everybody understand this?
Positive or negative?
You can get a positive or negative result. You can also get a combination of both positive and negative together. Is that in doubt? Hello, do we agree?
So, Prof, sir, if we have positive and negative together, can it still be described as positive at all?
No, it's a result, not positive. Hello?
Hello, Prof, sir.
I say it is a result. You can have entirely positive result, no negative.
Okay.
You can have entirely negative result, no positive come from there.
Yes.
And you can have present in your result some negative, some positive.
Very true, sir. Very true.
So you have 2 results.
Okay.
When you say result, I quickly drew your attention the results can be a bit not as you think. Usually going to the field as non-program professionals, you expect to see either positive or negative. But as a professional, you can have positive, you can have negative, you can have the two also existing. And you can resolve with a particular program approach a replacement that replaces what they had and then bring another new one that is also negative. That is a subject for discussion on another topic. Let's move forward. So we've talked about conceptualizing, then conceptualizing the change is what we are discussing now, that you can have, usually every program is geared towards getting a positive result. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Sometimes element of negative can come. And sometimes it can become completely the other way around. So once you conceptualize a change to be positive, which is a major concern of those being tutored in this program, is that you do everything possible to eliminate what could come out as a negative result. Which means that when we are designing the program, we should be on the watch on what could come as a negative. Then the third part of the element here is called the design itself, design. Now, when you are designing, there are three different components you need to look at. When you are going into design itself, you now have to look at educational. You take a look at organizational and then evaluative approaches. Having understood the context for your programming, having been able to focus, beam your searchlight or beam your activities or beam whatever you want to do on conceptualizing the change that is expected, you go to a drawing board and then look at how can this be educative? What are the educational cleavages you need to hinge your design on? You put that down. That is becoming your actual design now. Then how are those things organized to achieve that result you are looking at? Then what will be the evaluative processes you are going to deploy? I did mention at that other level of evaluation, which I say pre, mid, and final design evaluation. And when you are going to implementation too, you have pre-implementation evaluation too, you have mid-implementation evaluation, you also have post-implementation evaluation. Proper evaluations come in 3 tiers. When you evaluate yourself only at the beginning or at the end, you get something wrong. If you are not also very good in evaluating yourself at the end of every project and then drawing out what is lesson learned and what has been the problem of that very project or the activity, then put them as new issues to look at before next activity. It means you are actually, I don't know how to call it, you are unscientific. Because a scientific approach person is after a particular exercise, we come out with lesson learned. And if that lesson learned does not take us to a particular desk to fill that gap and return back to now build up the results for even when the evaluator has gone, it means you are not scientific. So at this level too, the design requires that you are to build your evaluative processes and the approaches. So when you get to that point, it will trigger you to evaluate, knowing fully well that you can't complete any project without external evaluation. And since you know that there will be external evaluation, when you are making your design, you should be thinking at every point in time, you should be thinking of what will happen when there's external evaluation. By so you keep yourself in check. So after that design, the next branch there is called implementation. Because for this course, we are supposed to design and implement, but I did say somewhere along the line that it is often difficult for you to be asked to design and implement. We have those who seek to design, and we have those who also implement. But in some projects, you can be asked to even come out with whatever you feel or you think will resolve a particular problem. Let's hear it from you and give us the cost to do that. That simply means that you have to design and implement. And when you have to design and implement, what we are talking about here becomes very important. When it is designed for you to implement, it becomes easier because you are just following a scheme. But in this case, you have to draw the scheme and work out the scheme. And this is a more difficult aspect of project implementation or management. So I talk about implementation here. We simply say implement. Implement the program or organizational effort. That becomes you going back. To implement, you must reverse your memory back to the context, then come back again to what kind of change that were conceptualized. And I told you, know that we are targeting positive change, and also know that it can be negative at the end if the positive was all well conceptualized, or if it was conceived wrongly or viewed as something that is so easy that could just change. When you get there, you got change. I give you an analogy. Yeah, this actually happened in the early 90s. I think between 1915 and 1925. I'm not very sure again. I could go online later and then get it very sure. We have what they call Father's Walking Scheme in Rome. Something happened within the church in Rome, and it led to a wide range controversy. And they got in some consultants. They asked the consultant to design a program or design an advocacy concept. Are we together?
Yes,
Are
Prof.
we there?
Yes, Prof.
Design an
Yes,
advocacy
Prof.
concept. And so this advocacy concept will now lead to winning members again back to the church. The advocacy designer did his work and brought it to the authorities. Authority bought the design and paid. And the design simply requires, hello?
I'm gonna answer, but ask me a question.
Hello, ma. Please mute your mic. So
Sorry, sir.
the concept requires that the fathers, who are the clergies, are to be given advocacy training and then deploy them to work. So fathers will now start to go to office to join secular people at work. I think that led to the concept of fathers being employed and the mission being paid. So when they get to the work, they will work as normal people. Some work in the factory, some work in institutions, and so on. The reason for them to be approved for that, as presented by the design, was to enable them mix up with those they cannot reach, rather than waiting every Sunday to get them where they will not want to come, and then be able to preach and counsel them and bring them back to the church. The program was supposed to be for 36 months. And within the 36 months, from the analysis done by the consultant, it's supposed to even get the churches filled more than what they used to have before the crisis. But during the mid-evaluation, they realized that the churches was getting a little bit more empty because the fathers that went out, the number of the fathers reduced by half, those who returned back to the church. Are we there? This is a practical life story. So rather, those in the factory were able to convince the small one, each and every father sent to 5,000 people to convince. Their power, their power of conviction was stronger, and many did not return back to the church at the end of the day. So it simply says that the design that was made was not properly evaluated. They didn't take a look at the power of the other environment, who can also overconvince the single person. And each of the team was one member. In a particular factory, one person is asked to go and convince about 3,000-4,000 people back to the church. In a particular environment, one person is to convince 400, 500. And the influence of the number actually overpowered the people that they are supposed to convince. They lost more. Rather, their men became converted. So invariably, in looking at programming, this is also a program failure. So if a program is not actually grounded with the context, and the concept is not sharpened with proper evaluation, and then the educational cleavages attached to the concept is not sound enough to be convincing, it can rather get people annoyed. And the organizational method of deploying and operationalizing it is not intact, it can just be a waste of fund at the end of the day. And when the method to evaluate is not there, because if this project I'm using as an example had this pre, mid, and final evaluation, it could have been fantastic. At the level where they've gone halfway into it, they could have withdrawn them. Being able to see that it is not yielding that result, because it takes a long time to convince a person that came to convince you than the time the person that came to convince you will use in convincing you. So they allow for quite a long time before the evaluation was made. By so doing, the second aspect of the strategy that could have been used to override the first one that failed could have come up, but it came up quite too late. And when they came up, they were on the back of the rock, because they were already convinced and just pretending to be coming back one after the other, only to come and back their loads. So it's important at this level that when a concept is designed, is conceptualized and designed, educational cleavages is strong, organizational structuring of it is intact, then evaluative approaches for it is timed and adequate. So at the point of implementation, what you do as implementer of a project is just to go back to the first and run yourself down to the level of implementation. Then we move to what we call evolve the effort. The effort that has been done has to now get evolved. Simply go to unit 1, which is understand the context, go back to the conceptualize the change, go back to the design and implement and evolve it. Once you get it properly evolved, program have been designed and also implemented. So let's recap back to conceptualizing change in line with program logic. I will simply just pull the points for us to be at home with it. I say program logic is a way to describe the logic or reasoning behind the program you design and deliver. It is a way you design, it is a way you will describe the logic. And logic, all of us know, just mean reasoning. So the reasoning of the program, the reasoning of the design, reasoning of implementation must be intact. Then the essence of program logic is to articulate the change you are trying to achieve through your programming effort. Bringing in logic here is that you need to articulate the change. I did mention that you can populate the activities of change. But when you populate activity of change, and you are not also arranging them also in a proper hierarchy of occurrence, there can be an interference in the way. The interference in the way can actually cut off the strength, or cut off the flow, or cut off the impact. So logic, and logic from the beginning to the end, the thinking, whatever you want to do in terms of programming, your thinking from the beginning to the end must align. At every step you are going to, you are looking at your end. Whatever you want to build in as a word to be said, you are looking at the end. Even from the time you started with compliment, good morning, you are looking at the end of your program. So if you are not conceiving and also not being conscious about the end of the program, you miss it along the way. So the key is to explicitly articulate the connections between what you do and the change you are seeking to achieve. At no point will you blink on what you are doing now and what you want to achieve. There must be a connectivity. Anything that you are trying to do or that is being imputed in your design, and you are not seeing how that relate to the result, becomes a distraction in program design. Program can be designed and implemented and people distracted. Program can also be designed and implemented and a new problem created. So when a program is completely designed, right, you have a program also developed for implementation. So let's briefly take a look at the steps for developing a program. We have what we call 6 E's approach. 6 E's, E for elephant. The first E says examine program. What are we talking about? Give it a thorough examination. Examination in this case is not like a jam question. Like I say, this option A, B, C. No, this is taking a succinct look from the beginning to the end. What is this program all about? We examine the program. For every program, there is objective. Even if the program donor, this program sponsor, may not tell you what he wants you to do in a sequence of occurrence, he will tell you what he or she or what they as a group want to achieve. Am I right? Hello?
Yes, sir. We are with you.
Great. And every program must have terms of reference. Oftentimes, we ignore the terms of reference. We read TOR and just read it and leave it. Once you read your objectives very well and read your terms of reference very well, there's difference between objectives and terms of reference. But they are combinable to get the result. If you read your terms of reference properly, read your objective very well, you'll be able to understand how to even evaluate the design. And even when you are getting off track at the level of implementation. So we examine our objectives, examine the terms of reference. Then the key examine here is beneficiaries. Who are these projects meant for? If we know who the projects are meant for, we'll be able to take a look if the draft of activities will actually fit. Can you tell me one of the advantages of beneficiary in program design? What will it affect if you are designing a program? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yeah. What component of your program will beneficiary affect?
Actually, the beneficiaries are the people you should focus your research on.
No, what will it affect? Tell me the effect it will have on your program.
The effects, as in, is it what they will benefit, or that's
No,
the
not
group you
their
are going to
benefits.
target?
not their benefit. If you want to design a program, of what consequence will beneficiary be on your design?
Well, Prof, knowing the beneficiaries will enable you to, when you evaluate the beneficiaries and the problem you actually want to solve, it will guide your actions. It will direct, it will bring your focus towards the group you want to address their problem.
That action is what I want to know. Tell me one or two of the actions it can have, it can influence.
My judgment.
No. One or two of the actions that beneficiary can influence in your program planning.
Well, as a target group for the program, even the costing, even the environment, even the location or whatever, I'm thinking those things, the target group will enable me to, bring these things into the planning towards the location, how to get there, the costing,
Excellent.
how it will affect.
Excellent.
Yes.
That is what I was looking for. Beneficiary affects everything. Beneficiary will affect your venue. How long will that program last per day? Beneficiary will affect who are your resource persons, who are the key actors. Beneficiary will affect your timing, your venue, your location, even the materials to be used. It's a principle in program design, examining beneficiaries. If there are women of 50, 60, 70 years and above, of course, the program design for them cannot be with the same with a program design for women of 16, 17, 18, 21. Take, for instance, even during the same program, in between the same program, but there's various difference in this category of age I've mentioned. You say light music, you can't play the same music. I don't know if I'm right.
Quite correct, sir.
So it's everything. It's everything. What we have listed here is everything. The program itself, examine it. It is everything you need to do. Objective. Objective determines everything you want to do. Your terms of reference, you must get it all. Your beneficiaries all must tell you exactly where, what, when, why, and how you should need to do what. Duration. Duration in this case is not activity duration. It's the duration of the program as a whole. They say you have 6 months, you have 1 year. The program run for 2 years. The program run for 3 years. You must achieve this, achieve that, achieve that, achieve that. So that duration is also important. Then what is the cost? So the 6E, E is here actually means examine program, examine objectives, examine terms of references, examine beneficiaries, examine duration of the project. That's the project life cycle I mean here. Then examine the cost. Once these 6 are properly examined, you can develop what we call activity plan. If you did not examine all this and you develop activity plan, or you put together, you bundled you now unbundle your design, because design is a bundle. When you want to execute, you unbundle it into phases and schemes. So if you unbundle your design without understanding the component of this A to Z, it's a fun fair that you are out for. So We take it one after the other again. On very important matter, developing of your programs, which is the last one after examining this, or after your 6E, you can develop the program. So in developing the program, these are things expected of you to do. One, you have to identify the activities. You might write down activity, but you are not identifying it as activity. By so doing, you are not going to give a key importance to it. I've attended some programs, activities were downplayed. Serious activities were downplayed. Unserious activities were given very serious importance. Number one, let's say activity of capacity building, right? We did not give a serious attention to end of session evaluation. When I mean evaluation, trying to even know what each person have learned new on daily basis. We got there, introduction, introduce yourself, say who you are, where you are working, blah, 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 blah. Past experiences we see. First resource person, is done. Question, raise up hand, talk, we close. We go and drink tea. The tea we are drinking, how is the tea formatted to add value to the program? Tea in a program is not just entertainment. By the time we want the tea to add value to the program, we can remove table. You don't take the food back to your hall. We have 3, 4, 5 standing table clustered to get people go around it. Then on each of the table, you can place something on the table. Like this adult program, what actually is it on the table? It's not possible if 6 cluster around that table taking tea, that they will take their eyes on it. It can form a discussion as well. So each of the activities on it has to be looked at. So identify the activities. And what led me to the issue of tea is that we do not identify all activities as activities. But in a program from A to Z, everything is activity, including issuing out of certificate of attendance. So when we take each as an activity, we give it all the importance required in it. And it plays a strong role in making the program impactful. So you are, as an expert, begin to identify all activities involved. What is not necessary shouldn't form part of the activity. And the activities must come in at the right time and be able to link the past to the future. Identify the roles. What are the roles to be played? And who best play these roles? Not on sentiment, not on maybe let's just allow him so that he wouldn't look as if he's not part of it. No, that doesn't form a program result. Roles are given to those who can play. Those are given to those who tease out the result. Roles are given to those who make meaningful use of that roles for the program. Identify the actors. Actors are not role players. There's difference between role players and actors. Actors are those who help the program work better. For instance, we are talking to National Union of Road Transport Workers. The secretary is here. The chairman is here, or the president. And again, we know the chairman, his president must speak. Secretary must also speak. There might be 1 or 2 persons, either the PRO or an informal leader, who when he talks, others listen. We identify that person and get him a different seat and get him pre-briefed and ask him to do certain things that others did not do and use him to control the rest. When he asks pertinent question, we look at his direction and we already know that his answer will fall into our scheme because we have spoken with him. So we have identified the key actors. If we want to ask, oh, can we move a little bit to extend by one minute or 5 or 1 hour? We point finger to the key actor. The key actor will say, yes, I think there's something wrong with that. Others knowing his influence on them will just keep quiet. So you must understand who are the key actors. Same also in communities. Sometimes you have leaders. The leaders are not the key actors. The leaders are actually being put on that position by those people we are talking about here now. So if you do not understand, identify the key actors, they can also be leaders as well. Not that is in all cases they are not, but you must identify them and place certain things around them to get the changes take place. Imagine you are doing advocacy, you are doing a campaign for behavioral change, and the key actors actually first and foremost change their behavior or come out to the program and then profess to buying the ideas and agreeing in what have been said, and this is what they want able to do from now on. Believe me, it's going to work. So you need to identify key actors. When key actors are along with you, your success rate is better. So you have to also identify the sequences and what sequence is each thing doing. Don't bring out activities based on failure of the other one. Mr. A is supposed to come and demonstrate this. Since he's not there, Mr. B that's supposed to feature on the third day of the activity is brought forward to the first day. And when he finishes isolated activity, he is not connecting to the other one. So in that case, what you can bring forward has to be identified, either interlude or something else, but then activities must be properly arranged. If it's not properly arranged, the result of those activities will also not be very fantastic. This is very important. Then you also identify what we call trackers. What do we use to track if we are succeeding? What do we use to track? Are we waiting to use our evaluators to track? Program auditors will come and now say how we did not do well. We need to see that before they come. In the program on his zone, how many people write down their names? How many drop their phone numbers? Out of the phone numbers that have been dropped, how many of those phone numbers are very active? Then we should know, in terms of campaign advocacy, where we are. How many can remember 5 days after what the advocacy campaign was? How many can remember 1 month after the major business of the advocacy? Then what changes can we visibly see? These are trackers that must be built into your program design. And this will also lead you to understanding what to do and how to even evaluate on your own. So link with the objective. For every activity you are bringing up, which part of the objective of the program are those things speaking to? Or is it because it's color? You now bring somebody to come and crack jokes. What jokes did we line for the person to crack? Is that joke having any impact with the result, the objective? Or we just call Alibaba or Basket Mouse, okay, and we are going to give it to just entertain people. On what? On which aspect? What will be the line of jokes that will add strength to your program at the end of the day? So if we are not linking whatever we do to the objective, you can imagine what it will look like. Take, for instance, you are trying to do an advocacy to a group on fitness, maybe healthy living, and so on. And we are serving the wrong side, the wrong kind of food and things like that on the program. That is what is available. Obviously, your nutritionist will come and talk about why not to eat this in the afternoon, why not to do this, this is a proper way to eat, this is how to do this. But in the program, those things are not present. It means they are not linking. The activity is not linking. So invariably, we need to take a look of this as well and make sure that we link every of the activity to the objective. For everything we do in that program, and we say, including jokes, must react, will take us close to what the objective are. So you have to also link the activity with cost. Because if you are done with the program and the program is indebted, that is a major point of failure on its own. So whatever activity that we need to design has to be linked with cost. And that is why program people like us will ask you, what is the cost elements? or what is the cost idea? What fund is available for this? The fund availability will tell us whether we are using 1 day, 2 days, 1 month, and if it is 1 day, it is 2 days, it is 3 months, what is the content of it, and so on. So you have to link with cost. Then we also have benchmark against TOR. Your TOR should watch. The TOR should be like a mirror. Then look at best practice and do a benchmark against your terms of reference. Don't just go into the program blindly. What I want to understand that there's hardly a program that have not been done before in terms of objectives and terms of reference. So you must be able to get what terms of reference have been on ground is on ground and get a proper benchmark for it. Once you get this benchmark, you'll be able to be tracking, and that will now be able to give you an idea of what you are targeting to get. If that was done by social group, by social period, and this result was gotten, either you want to surpass the result, but there must be a benchmark. The benchmark acts as a kind of a guide for you to be able to work on and get done. Then the final one there still come from what we talk about, review and finalize. I take it again, you are going to have this. If you have not had it already, it will be sent to you. Development of programs requires that you identify the activities, identify the roles available within the activities, identify the actors, identify the sequence of occurrence of the activities. First thing is you put the activity together. We're still saying the same thing, right? Identify the sequence at which the roles, the activities will occur. Identify trackers. What are the trackers for this? Then link your activities with objective. Link your objective with the cost. Then benchmark your activities against your TOR and best practice as well. Then review, and then also finalize. Do we have any question? Any question?
Sorry, Prof. This is not
Okay,
taking
please
you
go
back.
ahead.
My network is disturbing. I want you to please give me the remaining 3 elephants in examine steps for developing a program. I got examine a program objective, maybe terms of reference, the beneficiaries, examine direction of the program, examine the cost of the program. I didn't get the other 3, sir.
Well, those are the 6. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4,
Okay,
5,
I'll finish
6.
mentioning them.
And those are the 6. So your network was
Thank
good.
you, sir. Okay, sir, but it's just shaking. Sometimes I won't hear you. Sometimes.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So those are the 6.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Those are just the 6. So having done the design, I want us to briefly look at the implementation per se, which is almost the same thing like talking about program management for productivity, because the aim of every implementation is to deliver. And of course, you know that these programs are not, the projects are not one person's job. So I will take it in a quick arrangement I have here, which I will say that the aim of this is to provide overview and basic awareness on how social welfare programs are being managed for social work practitioners or productivities. I can say we also have to introduce a standard process here and a template that you use in managing such programs. When you have designed a program, there are certain templates required that you use in managing them. These are not new for some of us who have been working, but it's just like a reference to let us know that every program design is taken as a project. And what can we say is a project? I have a quick fix here, which I will read. You give me an answer and let me know that I have 4 elements here. Out of these 4 elements, only one of it is best fit for what we can call a project. So 1, responding to a request from Osun State government to design a training course by March 2024 for 250 social work staff with a budget of 500,000. Is that a project, yes or no? Keep it. When I come to the question, you answer. I said, responding to a request from Osun State government to design a project of training course by 2024 March for 250 social work staff with a budget of 500,000. The question I'm asking, is that a project? Number 2, responding to a request from your permanent secretary, if you are working with a ministry, I want to assume, to email a ministry-wide performance report on the last Friday of each month for the foreseeable future. Is that a project, yes or no? Keep it until I come. So I repeat, responding to a request from your permanent secretary to email a ministry-wide performance report on the last Friday of each month for the foreseeable future. I go to the 3rd one. The 3rd one said, organizing a yearly team building day for your organization. Is that a project? Yes or no? The last one said, completion and submission of sickness absence form to HR on a monthly basis. Is that a project? Yes or no? Let me now run through them again one by one. After that, I will pause. You tell me which of the number is a project and why. Every person will choose one number and say reason why they chose it. Number 1, responding to a request from Osun State government to design a training course by March 2024 for 250 social work staff with a budget of 500,000. 2, responding to a request from your permanent secretary to email a ministry-wide performance report on the last day of each month for the foreseeable future. 3, organizing a yearly team building day. 4, completion of a submission of sickness absence form to HR on a monthly basis. Which of these is a project and why? Are we there? I hope our networks are fine.
Yes, Prof.
Okay, let's go ahead.
I want to select number 1 to be a project
Why?
because
No, somebody is talking, please, one after the other. Go ahead, the first speaker.
Because number 1 is a training program. It requires organization of planning. It requires a work plan of a venue, a location, arrangement for 250 people, looking at the participants, 250 social workers, and there's a project too. It involves costs. So I'm thinking the number 1 is a project, sir.
Okay.
So it requires a program.
Okay, another person. The next person. Okay. Demishola? Another person, please.
Prof, sir,
Okay.
I also will choose number one as
Your reason.
the project out of the four.
Can you come back and come again? Your
Because the
network is shaking.
objective is clearly stated. So the objective is clearly stated in that number one.
I think I can't hear you clearly again.
Yes, sir. I think my network tripped at
Okay,
that
go
point.
ahead
Can you
now.
hear me now?
Just speak. Yes, go
Yes,
ahead.
sir. I'm also
You
picking
say,
number one as a
give
project.
your reason, your reason.
The objective is clearly stated. Apart from
Okay, that's your reason.
yeah, apart from the budget and the initiator, the sponsor of the projects, you know, the fact that the objective is clearly stated means at the design stage, the professional working on it will have tangible material for the design of the program.
Okay, the last woman standing or last man standing. What is your take? The third person? Well, without taking much of our time, are we there?
Yes, Prof.
Yes, Prof.
Great. Component of project is that objectives need to be clear. Every other one has objectives, if you read very well. May not have costing, but it's not everything that has a costing that is a project. What differentiates the project clearly from non-project is that it must start and end, must have a duration. What differentiates that number one with others clearly is that it has a endpoint, it has a period where it is targeting and ends there. So anything, any project or anything you see that has no where it's going to end is not a project. And anything that has objective, has component, and has time is going to end is to be managed as a project, because you are going to give an account at that point. At that ending point, there's something you are going to do. Evaluation will come in, they will judge you on that. So let's agree that we have an idea of what a project is, but then take it clearly that any activity that does not state clearly the ending, is not winding up at a particular period, is not a project. And that's why you hear Project Nigeria, Project this, Project that. The Project Nigeria, it can only be set by a president who is elected for a term, but Nigerians can't call it a project because there's no timeline for you to be a Nigerian. So invariably, we now have an idea so that led us to what I was trying to say when I was talking about what project is. We should know it. It also helps us in driving. Yeah. So invariably, let me also say here, what is a project? When a program is designed, it's to be run as a project, and that's why I'm going straight to use the word project. A project features the following characteristics. specific start and end date. That I said, clearly written. If there's no specific start time and end date, that cannot be a project, no matter the amount of money put in it. No start time, no end date, it is not. It also has series of tasks to achieve a defined outcome or objective. Projects also have projects also have to use people or resources to achieve that objective. So when you don't have a clearly defined time of beginning and end, no matter how beautiful it looks, it is not a project. And when we cannot see task in what we are asked to do, you can agree with me that the rest has task. Whether the amount was mentioned or not, but there are tasks to be done. But there was no start and end date. Then the rest also specify use of people too. But start and end date were not very clear in it. So a temporary project is a temporary endeavor undertaking to create a unique product or services. So now know that if you are given an appointment with a timeline, it's a temporary endeavor that you are expected to undertake to create unique products or services. So that is what we call project in these terms of professional approach. So we now say, what is project management at the level of the social welfare operations? In the project management, we say it is a planning, sitting down to think, thinking logically, like I've said, thinking in an organized manner. So planning, organizing, directing, and controlling of the major job you have as a project lead is to plan, organize, direct, and control. What are you controlling? You control activities. Activities means what people will do. You also control people themselves, the human resources, and control money. 3 elements. You plan, you organize, you direct, and control activities. So what people do has to be controlled by you. If they do what they are not supposed to do, and it's list to feast up, but then the activities must be controlled. Activity must be directed. So where you are unable to control activities, you are unable to control, direct, and organize the people or plan for them, you are unable to track the money being used in what you are doing, you have lost that project management capability and placement. Power given to you to manage the project is misused or underused, or you have shown incompetence. Then project management has a cone, a triangle, which if sent to you, you will see. It has a scope, which is a requirement of what to do. And it has time, which is overall time given for you to do. And all this scope and time will have to bring out the quality, which is overall result. So you are targeting towards a particular level of quality, and there's a time given to you to do that, and there's a scope you have to operate to bring out the quality. That is project management in action. So we have here what you are supposed to be labeled yourself with. You are labeled with 3 issues when it comes to project management. The issue here is that you have time given to you. You have the scope in your hand, and you also have the money, which is resources, given to you. Expectation is what is now the labor on our head when time, money, and scope is given to us. This expectation is there like a blanket statement or a blanket vision, but within you, your sponsor, onlookers, you all know what is quality expectations. When your expectations are coming out in qualitative terms, you begin to see some clap of hands. When your expectations are coming out in quality terms, the clap increases. Even when somebody sees and refuses to clap, you realize that it could be difficult to close your expectations that you didn't get it. Because once expectations are met, it becomes open. People will see it. So in trying to balance the act, you have to know you need to know that to get a quality expectation, you must be able to balance time, money, which is resources, and the scope. So you balance the time you have, you balance the resources, you balance your scope, and then you get your quality expectation. How do we do the balancing? A good project manager needs to know how to manage time, knows importance of time, and know when he or she is wasting time, and identify time wasters and move away from time wasters and go closer to time gainers. When you spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes on discussion that are useless, that is not yielding, not pointing to your result, it's not within taking you to your terms of reference, not allowing you to achieve your expectations, those kind of discussions are useless and you are wasting the time. So in getting that done, there are two concepts within that time aspect. Time management means that you have to manage yourself and manage others. As a leader, you know your timing, you manage your timing, you have a guide. There's something telling you that you have wasted much time on this very aspect. There's something telling you that at this period where you are now, you are supposed to be on activity 2, not 1. And when you don't have those things guiding you, you are likely going to misuse the time. And when times are misused on project, the time don't come back. Rather, the quality of expectation will reduce at the end of the day. There's no magic in it. When your scope becomes too large for you to operate, and you have been given to operate, and you have agreed to operate, you take responsibility for that scope. And when you take responsibility, it is your business to jump into the middle of the scope and dissect the scope and reorganize the scope in such a way that one will react to the other. This one react to this, then you are able to manage the scope. Then resources is another fact again. Resources are usually seen by many people as not being enough, but resources projected for the program must be enough because you already have at your initials doorstep what finance is available. So that finance available should enable you to go and tinker with what they call allowable and not allowable in your project. What is allowable and what is not allowable is based on the volume of finance that is available for you, available of resources, either material, finance, and goodwill that are available. Where they are not available to that extent, they become what is not allowable for your project. So going to report that money wasn't enough to run this project are usually not acceptable in project management. Because from time initial, you have seen the budget, you have seen the scope. So when a budget is given to you, as a project manager, you have power to increase the budget. How do you increase budget? Nobody expects you to go and look for money from your pocket to come and add into the project. From where we are coming from, when you have good role players, you can manage your resources. When you have good actors, initiate the actors, get them motivated also. They will contribute to the project, either directly or indirectly. There are things you need to pay. Let's say, for instance, you need to meet and do your campaign, do your advocacy in a hall. Rather than going to Sheraton Hall, I'm not the marketing Sheraton, rather than going to a big hotel like Hilton and so on, you can go to Emir's Palace. Ask Emir to give you his meeting room. hall to do the program. By so doing, you have added value to the resources of that program. It's not in all cases that you must go and sit in a big hotel room and then run your programs. You can also do a little, maybe providing a small repenting to the hall from your scope and the money if your program is using hall all the time. So this is still part of your job to be able to combine and make good use of the resources. It's a poor project manager that we see or we want to agree that will agree to manage a project, agree to the resources given, and then come back to say he failed on ground of resources. Because a good project manager should be a resource motivator too, should be a person that be able to generate resources. And mind you, resource is not just only cash. So it's expected that you take cognizance of this as well, because you can design your program, place them in hierarchy, and at the point of implementation, you are expecting that everything designed there must be paid for. And project sponsor, in reality, does not pay for everything A to Z. They expect that the project manager should have some other skills, some other good ways to leverage on to make the project work. So you need to learn the art George would not bring out any result. You know very well, it's just like simple marketing. If you go to market and buy a product that's supposed to be 10,000 naira for 50,000 naira, by the time you are unable to sell it at that amount or sell it even at that same amount of 50,000, you have made no gain. The person who bought the project, bought an article in the market for 3,000 or 10,000 and sell for 20,000 is a better person than you in terms of management of projects. So you need to understand how this balancing act actually work in projects. So we have what they call project life cycle. You know that. There's a logical sequence of activities to be accomplished to accomplish the project goals or objective. For you to get a project goal or objective, in our earlier discussion on plan, we might have put some activities in hierarchy of occurrence. When those hierarchy occurrences are logically arranged and we're able to deliver them, we can now say that we have achieved the project, and that is what we call project life cycle. Here, I analyze it using a simple chain. The simple chain here just said initiate, plan, deliver, review, and close. By doing this, we have taken into cognizance the arrangement of it. If you plan before you initiate, you are going to have a problem. If you actually deliver before you now plan, you are going to have a problem. If you actually start from reviewing what you have not actually delivered, I think there will be a problem. So in this case, we talk about we initiating, like what we said, we plan, we deliver, we review, and then we close the project. By so doing, we'll be able to get our result. Then some other aspect of it that we need to talk about, a very important aspect, I mentioned finance. Finance from the perspective of a finance person is different. Finance from the perspective of a social welfare or social work person is also different. Finance from the perspective of a marketer is different. Finance from the perspective of a banker is also different. So you must be able to lift your mind away from all other parts of financial perspective or financial corridors into social service delivery finance structures. So in this, we have schedules and budget development. By the time you are done with your design, you can be asked to please develop budget to it, or attach budget to it, or come out with financial requirements. And do know that project does not require you being an expert in everything. Project require you knowing everything, but being expert in one area. It simply means that when it comes to this aspect of schedules and budget development, you might need to consult people, others, other expertise, and you might need to talk to accountants. But remember that the project accountant is different. You might need an accountant that has been managing project finance or that have been costing projects, because that person knows the field cost, and that person have an idea of social cost in terms of computing social inconveniences to finance. It is a different area that is that are completely different from other parts of financing, like banking and so on and so on. So you don't just rush to a banker, you don't just rush to a consulting firm to go and have this done. You have to benchmark, look at similar projects, similar programs, take a look at the details as well. But what this simply means that for a project to work very well, you do not work alone. So you must use an interdisciplinary team approach if you have to succeed as a project person. Forget your personal ideas or personal expertise and get your expertise crossed with other expertise as well, even similar expertise, expert to cross-check what you have in mind. So you could be sure that when you go to the field, you don't get shocked with the field realities. So at this point, I would say that no project is done alone and no project succeeds alone. No project can also work well alone. So it's important for project managers, project officers to understand the importance of working with colleagues so that it can be fine. So I want to briefly take a look at what is expected that we should do at each of the stage. I mentioned some stages here when I told you I drew a simple chain. The stage, let me go back, is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stages. The first one I said is to initiate. Second one I said is to plan. The third one I say is to deliver. The fourth one I say is to review. While the last one I said is to close. Then what do we do at each of these stages? I want to recap that. The first, to initiate. Initiate means you define scope, develop outline of your business case. I want to believe this is clear and clearer to all of us. The second one is to plan. On planning, what am I talking about here? Planning simply means, one, identify milestones and outputs. Identify required funding and resources. Identify and analyze the risk of what we have planned or what we intend to do. Identify and analyze the stakeholders. Undertake evaluation and development impact assessment. Then develop project initiation documents. At this point, I want to pause and ask one or two of us to share experience at this point. Then we move on to conclude. Somebody to unmute and speak. Share experience and let's move on.
Prof, sir,
Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. As you were taking us through this content, my mind went to an experience I had. It's happened a number of times, not only once, when I've had to work with people on a team to implement projects, not necessarily large-scale projects, but projects all the same. And there's this consistent experience I've had in which people in charge of implementation at the end of the day, during the final evaluation, will always come up to say that they spent their personal money at one point or the other in order to get results. So each time I hear that, I begin to wonder, how professional is that? What's the professional implication for coming up with a report that says one's money was used at some point to get things done, when compared with what is expected that a project manager has a holistic look at what the cost would be, and that will be clear from the design that he or she is supposed to implement. Is it professional to come up with that kind of report? my experience ended up as a question, sir.
Thank you. As a good project manager, you don't discourage that. Hello?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Only that project will not refund the person. You do certificate of appreciation for the person for the contribution. No, it's not a laughing matter. It's accepted. At the end of every project, they give award to
Yes, sir.
exemplified those who implement the project. We applaud some people for extra contribution like that.
Okay.
Because when project
So
costing has been done,
yes, sir.
when the project costing has been done, everybody has the project costing format. Like if I said your business is to provide food, do this, do that, we are giving you a kind of a template to work with and the costing. If for any reason that costing change and you want the project to pay for it, you must get approval. You must get approval. Either you revert back on a WhatsApp, if that is agreed mode, or you revert back on an email, or you revert back by talking with me and dropping something that can be seen on a paper. Then I can say, approve, please go ahead. You'll be refunded. Outside that, you get what we call letter of appreciation. Outstanding contributor to project are also applauded at the end of project. There's a project closing. Only that the way we do our own sometimes, when you are done with the program, they just go home. The program team need to meet again and appraise what they have done. These kind of issues are settled at that point. Everybody sit.
Okay, sir.
And when you sit with, okay, the program was well done. If it's as simple as a conference, you can say the conference was well organized. But during the conference, we observed this, we observed that. This we are doing for the next one to be very efficient and more effective. Of course, we expect that we should move from higher to higher. So in the conference, we realized that even the quality of food we booked for was improved upon. Kudos to the team that handled food. We realized that we didn't even pay for decoration, but there was decoration there. So as a project manager, you should be able to watch those things and be able to see the first-hand evaluation of those things before they even talk about it. So when somebody say, oh, I spent so money on evaluation, we clap for you. Because what is not in the costing can be provided, but if it's provided, it has to follow the organizational agreed agreed concept. For instance, you bring in a banner that we did not pay for, we didn't allow. The banner must carry just the name of the program we talked about. You can't bring in a banner of some other material, some other company, and so on that you are adding to the value of the program. No, not accepted.
Okay, sir.
You can bring a banner, but the banner still speak to our concept. It's okay. Even if we didn't pay for flex banner, you can bring it. We not pay for a backdrop, you can bring it. But the concept on it should not differ from our program. When it differs from our program, we are going to reject it in the program, not even after the program. We will not allow you to display it. We will seize it. So every person giving a role to play by the terms. You can't come out with extra bill at the end of the day. That extra bill must be discussed before you execute. At least you must get this. There's one person who will be a clearinghouse for any extra issues. And we also will note that during program it can occur. We take a decision on that, and every member is aware. And again, if another way of doing it, which usually is bastardized, to give percentage. So okay, you cannot expend any extra above 5% or 10% of it. If you find out that everybody come with 10% extra, which is not fair. But the best bet is to get everybody know that we are working on a project, and this project has a budget, and this is how it goes. So if it's a project, I don't think anybody dare do that, unless you are doing it as maybe a fundraising activity for members of the project. So that is it, man.
All right. Thank you very much.
Experience?
Thank you, sir.
And One of those reasons, you know what normally promote this?
Yes, sir.
Casualization of operation. You are doing everything with mouth. And this, so how do you get this? Go and get this. No, be memoing. Send a memo. Mr. A, you are ahead of this. Please give me a report on how this goes. He came to say, man, let me explain. Don't explain, put it in writing. If I ask you to explain, you do. But if I didn't ask you to explain, you come for explanation, I will not accept it. So when you are making everything a personal discussion, it's no longer a project. When they are assigned, when that committee is being assigned, do you issue them letter and terms of reference? Hello, ma. Hello, ma. Hello.
Prof, normally there will be a term. Terms of reference.
Prof. Yes, Prof.
Hello.
Hello, Prof.
Hello. I'm with you.
And committees are giving terms of reference.
They are giving a letter.
Yes, a letter.
And the TOR, did you write the financial aspect?
No.
The terms of reference must be detailed. And when you give terms of reference, you don't give people terms of reference to go to market and do market survey and bring to the committee. That is not the right one to do.
Yes, not at all, sir.
But that's what we normally do sometimes. Say, you people are going to do this, go and do a market survey and come back. You know, it's not done.
Yeah.
What you do is that you call 2 or 3 food vendors, suppliers, which you, of course, we know them, they are there, to come to your committee and submit their proposals. The committee is not a procurement committee. The committee and implementation committee. That's where we normally miss it. The committee that we set up to implement are not procurement committee. So if you want to do anything standard, for instance, you need meat pie, right? Or you need drinks. It's just to do a small meal, and send to A and B eatery. That is a standard one. Please give us quotation for this. With that, we draw full budget. After the full budget, we now choose those to be responsible for it.
To manage.
Yes, it's the managing aspect. That's delivery. But I do know that many a times we actually set that wrong process. And then when it becomes large, we want to fight it. There are souvenir companies. There are event managers. They also exist everywhere. You ask 3 or 4 to quote for you. They can quote for you. You look at what part of it they are quoting that is good for you. You then do your costing from there. That's a proper management business. You not to set up 5 people. So you go and look for chair and bring. Okay, this set you go and look for this. Oh, that can be a project.
Yeah, it's not.
So if that is what Madam Vivian is talking about, it's not within what we're talking about here. That's a play at home. Because people will learn to know that procurement is a central business in project, and it has its processes. Nobody's asking you to go and negotiate for the team. If every person go and negotiate and bring a paper, that is not how it is done. You don't negotiate and bring paper, and now come and say the money is this. If somebody negotiate and bring paper, that is it. I negotiate my and bring paper. It becomes spurious at the end because we don't tie those things to what is the proceed. But for any venture, like a project you are being given money to run, they'll ask you all those questions. They will do benchmark also. They will do comparative analysis. And when you are found to misbehave, they also give you a query on that. And at the end, they will do a check for you as a refund. I'm sure you know that's how that one is run.
Yes, sir.
So it's the modus operandi She's already telling us that she doesn't set up that committee well. The subcommittee don't have such power. Don't have such power. The business is brought together as an envelope. It is implementation we're talking about now. We're not talking about purchasing. Purchasing is centrally decided.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. If it's an emergency aspect of purchasing, we can ask people to go and do that. But it should not be in all aspects of the operation. We can get into a program and there's a part we did not plan well. We acknowledge that. Or something crop up that necessitates a change. We can just look for 2-3 people there and ask them to go and do that. But we on our own should know those we can send on that kind of project and come back without stress.
Yes.
So that still involves managing people well and knowing those to send on such errands. Great. Any other experience sharing?
Prof, this one is a question.
Okay.
Talking about project life cycle. You structured after like a structured program. You have planned. You maybe along the line there's a discussion. For instance, there is a strike or like the COVID period, and therefore the time frame you said it must have a start date and a finish date.
Yeah.
And the time frame is distorted. What happened? Does it render the project useless or something to report on or something to review?
You know that what you have said now have not even distorted anything. COVID did not distort anything. As soon as COVID came, there was a new mode of engagement that came up. So you need to give us something very strong.
What of strike?
Okay. Our strike will affect movement. Right?
Yes, bro.
Okay, if strike affects movement and it affects the project, great. There's what in every project, there's a contract, and there's what they call force majeure. Force majeure means circumstances within the control of every person, both the sponsor. Everybody knows that something beyond the circumstance has occurred. So the contract that you have signed for the implementation or your terms of reference will also say what should be done within that period. Sometimes there's project extension when there is an established force majeure. Sometimes if it is not a very serious aspect of it, but expected, or it is a serious aspect, but not assumed to affect the result, overall result too much at the end, they skip it. You get what I'm saying? So the initial document has to be perfected well. And that is why when we want to do this business, we must look at the initial document. No matter how small is the business we want to do, if we sit to talk about it well at the initial and bring out terms, these terms are something that are standard and they're available to look at. You will see how things move in a very smooth way. But usually we can trivialize operations and expect a very fantastic result. It doesn't really work. No matter how small it's an event, no matter how small, even a meeting of 2 or 3 people has to be planned, pre-planned. But however, where there are issues like that, the condition of the contract of the program or condition of the program usually take care of it. Because no program is designed without taking into consideration what could happen in case something like this happened. I hope you understand me. Hello? 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 Yes, I think you heard me. I said that from the beginning, the
Hello,
program
sir.
will also take into consideration, yes, the program will take into consideration what could happen in case something like this also happened. It can lead to extension, or if it's not very, very strong that can affect the result, it can be removed. That part can also be taken off. I hope you understand me. Hello? Hello, are we there? Hello? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Hello? Yeah, are we fine?
Hello, sir.
Okay. Yeah, are we fine? Okay, let's move forward. Having talked about what to do at each of the stages, we talk about what we should do at the stage of initiation. We also discuss the components of activities at the stage of planning. We talk about the stage of delivery and the stage of review. So we need to talk about project performance baseline. Are we there?
Prof, the baseline, is it about the closure?
No. Performance. Project performance baseline. We are done with activities, what we should do at each of the stages of the project. We are now talking about the project performance baseline. We have a formula. When this is sent to you, you understand it better the way it is run. It's come on 4 blocks. The first block is called work breakdown structure. For a project to be effectively implemented, there must be a work breakdown structure that shows how the work is being broken down and how it's being structured. Some are done in phases, and the phases shows the interrelationship of one phase to another. What comes first, what comes second, and what comes third. After the work break down the structure, you have your risk planning. You know, we mentioned something here in our previous discussion. Even the last one we just talked about, you begin to talk about the risks like issues that made up of force majeure in planning or force majeure in implementation. There are certain circumstances that will happen when project implementation is ongoing, and those circumstances are not circumstances known to one person. For instance, you mentioned strike. For instance, you mentioned epidemic and so on. When there's a statewide strike, nationwide strike, and so on, I'm not sure it's going to affect only one person. That could be accepted as a force majeure. So the condition of implementation that as listed will take its place, because in every contract of project contract, there's a column where it is indicated that in case something like this happen, this will be the decision, or this is what we will do. So in this case, what I'm trying to say is that those things we have mentioned consist of what we call risk planning. In every project, there are always a risk. A project that does not bring out its risk is not clean, because as a project has its own advantage, so also the risks also follow. So to have a very successful project work, when you list the advantage, you list the risk. So after the work breakdown, we go to what we call risk planning. We do the risk planning. When risk planning is done effectively, you reduces the loss. When you get your baseline design and you do your risk planning, the next level of it is budgeting. After the budgeting, you now have tax planning and scheduling. So when you schedule the tax and you plan the tax, it goes into the breakdown. From there, run again into the risks and return into budget. This is a cycle that gives us a baseline. So we talk about project baseline. We talk about first, what are the work breakdown structure we are looking at? Then two, what risks are associated in each of these structure? Each of them has a risk, and part of the first major we talk about is also a risk on its own. This will constitute the budget, because if budget, this affects the budget, because if budget are fixed based on the pluses, when the minus occur, will be in disarray because we cannot intervene. So invariably, we can budget, let's say, £1,000 or $1,000, 1,000 naira, depending on the funder for the project. But because we've done our risk planning or risk analysis and realize that the project on its own can have 20% of risk, and it can have about 30% of risk, it can have about 15% of risk, we give 100 naira and then put aside the money we are not going to give you as implementer. We keep 20 naira from 100 naira, which means 120 naira, 20 to take care of risks aside so that our project would not fail. Why going to the field? If these risks occur and it meets the requirement of what we call risk in our risk analysis we did, and our description of force major, we can now deploy this 20 naira to mitigate the risk. Then we still did not fail. We get exactly what we wanted to get within the same cost we have put together. But if the risk did not occur, we gain, and then the project becomes very successful at the end of the day. So these are the baseline issues we need to know and discuss, and also take into consideration when we're talking about these project management too. Then we also have the next stage of it we call project management plan. You must be able to do the plan very well, because when you plan well, implementation becomes better and evaluation will get a better result. Then the objectives and TOR will also be achieved. So on this, we have two major elements. The first element is called project performance baseline, which I've told you here. Performance baseline has in the is now benchmarked against project management plan. The project management plan will include to initiate and to also align the documents. When you initiate and the project you have initiated is in alignment with the documents, we now begin to look at the components in between, which the first is change management plan. From baseline performance, there's a change management plan. I mentioned earlier that you have risks that can occur, and every risk will lead to a change. So for you to have the change contained and then deliver and get the result, you must have a plan on how the change management will occur. So when the change comes, it doesn't take you by surprise. You already have a plan for it. Then there is an action expected to be initiated and then implemented. Then the change that occur will be closed. The gap is supposed to establish become closed. Then the change did not affect us. We also have what we call quality plan, quality assessment, and quality control. Quality assessment and quality control is a product of quality plan. In implementation, there's a quality we are looking for the project to be successful. If the quality assessment is not intact, quality control will be zero. So we need to, at the app initial, design a quality assessment form, quality assessment module, quality assessment plan. We decide what forms the quality. We know where and when failure starts to set in. And we know who is responsible for the quality control. In most programs, the M&E manage this. M&E is a unit or a person or a team that are not expected to be subsumed or are not expected to be enveloped in a project. In planning of project implementation, the M&E should be able to stand a little bit outside the project, which means it will not be involved in the complete management of the project, so you can see. Because once you are involved in the complete management of project, you cannot see. Almost everything done within the project will look fine to you. But the stand-aside person or stand-aside team that is watching, like people looking through the mirror, will be able to see a bit better. Those are the quality control and quality assessment team. We call them monitoring and evaluation. So that team, you must have a plan. Because if you ask somebody to monitor, you have to tell the person what he should look at. Or else the monitor can decide to monitor what he or she wants to monitor. And at the end, the quality is still not good. So at the planning level, there must be a quality plan. So the quality plan will be used by M&E to monitor the quality of the project and then control the quality at the same time. You also have communication plan. You remember the question one of us asked that sometimes when you set up a committee to manage a project, some people come up to say, okay, I spent extra 10,000 in this, in buying that. Somebody come and say, I spent extra 5,000 in buying this, in a way to make sure that my committee deliver. In a project of this nature, I said that there are two ways to managing that. In the first instance, you are telling me that the whole committee is deficient in terms of committee structure. Because if every member of the committee is aware that they don't have power to increase cost, it will not also occur. Every committee is also aware that things can change. So within that corridor of things can change, it cannot be abused, because if you allow that, every committee person will do what they want to do. So this actually is a failure of your communication plan, because when the communication plan has been made and everybody understands the process to communicate to get a change done, I'm not sure it will come in a haphazard way. For instance, now there has a structure of communication that says that they are going to provision of food should be for 7, and 7 food should cost 10,000 naira each. At the point where that becomes 11,000 or 12,000 naira, there should be a memo to the head of this. And once that head does not approve, it means we are changing the food plan. Once that head approved, money can be sourced from any other way and then increased the vote for the food. But once that head did not approve, whosoever add money to it and increase the cost of the food is taking a liability. And we can also issue the person's certificate of contribution to the project and clap for the person also, or maybe make a paper for the person to hang in the office as a good staff. So if the communication plan is not intact, it will cause this stress and it will going to disorganize the project team. So there's a need to make the communication clear, set out the principles, set out the acceptable and not acceptable pattern for every member of the team to know from the beginning. So communication plan will also be taken into consideration at the level of project management to achieve a result. It is a key component of project plan. There are acceptable communication plan, there are non-acceptable communication plan. So anything you do within the level of unacceptable is taken to be personal and cannot form part of project decision, and project would not fund it. Then lastly, on this project management plan, you have what we call transition and closure plan. We did mention at the beginning that anything that doesn't have a beginning clearly defined, does not have an end clearly defined, can never be said to be a project. A project must have an end clearly defined. And must have a beginning clearly defined. The objectives and the TORs are also made clear. Even when the objectives, TOR are not clear, they are always embedded in the statement of the project. But beginning and end is compulsory. They must be clearly written. So if those are clearly written, it becomes clear to us that every project must end. So if a project ends, we are having project closure. At the level of the project closure too, we know that some projects are not meant to close and go home. They are meant to close and transit into another project or transit into another phase. So at initial, these are planned. We will know what to do when a project is getting close. We know how we would also transit the project. Sometimes, for instance, if a US government is funding a project in Nigeria, they might set up a project that are not same but a bit similar, and not similar sometimes but can replace themselves. For instance, role malaria project and typhoid project can come as a separate project. But when they are ended, if typhoid project is ending before malaria, you can transit asset of malaria into typhoid to begin to have malaria as a small extension of the typhoid without increasing the cost for them. So that plan ab initio must be clear as well as part of project management plan. So if you are closing, what does it entail? At the beginning, the closure method is clearly written. So it's not something that when the project is ending, the staff are confused. Partners are also confused. Every partners you are working with understand when the project is closing because the timeline is clearly indicated as well. And if it's going to transit, from the beginning, they also mentioned that this project, after 6 months, after 1 year, 3 years, or 4 years, will transit to this. So the roadmap is clear. So there's no confusion about that. When these elements are clearly outlined, it becomes better for us to be able to manage the project, and it reduces conflict, and it also enables every person to work towards same objective, and friction will also be less because it is clear and clearly written and every person knows that. So when the manager is trying to apply this principle, what the manager is actually doing will be a kind of repeating what everybody has known or drawing people's attention back to it because you already know that this is what will be done. So invariably, we want to hold it here, and I need to give you a tool that will guide you. If there's a project for us to manage, what do we actually pay attention to? So we've talked about the performance baseline. We also talked about the management plan. The plan must be intact. Without this plan being put in place, and a person is responsible for this plan, which is a project manager, the project manager's action and inaction must be determined by this plan. Where there's going to be a change or a deviation, that has to be also communicated effectively so that people know that the manager does not wake up to do what he or she wants to do at every point in time. I will simply take us to tools that you will need to be armed with to help you in practice. Because sometimes practicalizing this thing can look a little bit alien to what we're talking about here, but then this preparation is done in practical terms and is also born out of practical experience as well. So I will say that tools that will help you in this project management practice are as follows. Number one, how to guide. How will you guide? How do you guide? How do you guide others? How do you guide the project? How do you guide the resources? How do you guide the personnel to be sure we get the objective? Starting a project checklist. For a project to be successful, there must be a checklist. Office of the manager usually are done with picture of the manager, the wife, the children, and so on. But the project checklists are usually not found there. Many of our offices are done with a lot of things that doesn't have bearing with the project. So we might be able to look at our offices as project managers. Our project objective should be very well written, bold in so many places for us to take a look. For everything we do, like printing material and so on, that is internal checklist should be at the back that guide us to the fundamental principles of why we are there. We have project initiation documents. which you must also take a look at. You have project plan, which can be done in a kind of a Gantt chart to guide us. You have project analysis toolkit. We have risk register template. We have progress reporting template as well. If you must track progress, you must have a report for the progress periodically. We also have financial forecast template. That if we must manage for finance properly, we must be able to do a forecast of it. And that will lead to we avoiding that scenario we discussed earlier. In terms of finance, people shouldn't do what they want to do. And once it goes that way, failure will come in. Then in every activity that is being carried out, there should be a lesson learned. But when we just learn lessons, sometimes I see this in programs, conferences, and so on. When we say, what lesson have we learned? 3-4 people will put up their hands and say what they want, and it ends there. But if the lesson learned is just something that we need to use as a kind of a garnishing in a training program, then what is the essence of the lesson itself? It's not documented anywhere. We don't have a logbook for that. We don't have any paper where that is documented for those implementing to take home and take a look and know that this is an important aspect to take a look at. Then we have post-project review meetings. These are usually done, but sometimes it's not taken very seriously because when project ends, some projects, key actors are actually being disturbed with what is the next line of their project. Where would they get some other work to do? But then it should be made to know that's a very important aspect of it. Because if a project manager does not understand, doesn't review the template, or it does not review the project they have done, the project ending, post-project template is not well filled, it could actually misguide the project and also misguide the people involved in setting up for a new project itself. I want to, at this point, ask for questions and answers and sharing of experiences. I know we will have one. Most of us are working in any aspect of what we have discussed there. We've discussed the ones we've done earlier. So I'm talking in particular with aspect of project management, project objective, balancing the act, like we've said, the project life cycle, schedule or budget development, what to do, and then the project baseline and project management plan. Thank you. Question and answer.
Prof, we are okay with the lecture. No
Okay,
more
I know
questions.
sometimes we have very exceptional students who can just listen and no question. I always like that.
It's a good lecture. We appreciate listening to a professor in the class. So I don't think, and it's broken down in ABC for us to get and understand to assimilate. So thank you, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Good to have you.
Thank you, Prof. Only
Hello.
that the network has not been too good. I don't know about others.
Hello, good evening. Are you offering public relations? I have a message from Dr. Bello.
No, social work. I don't know.
Social work advocacy. Social work advocacy as your specialty.
Social work.
I mean, campaign
social work advocacy is not for Madam Egbe. You are studying social welfare administration, not social work advocacy. Madam Egbe already shared your number with Mr. Victor. He will reach out to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Is it a force talking?
Yes.
Okay, I will private chat you. We'll talk later.